Who doesn't love chicken parm? Two things about this one that are special. One, I baked it, and two, I made my own homemade pasta sauce, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So the first thing that we're going to do is chop up our onions, and we're also going to chop up some garlic and basil. Now, I got this basil from the store. If you grow your own, props to you. I really have been thinking about getting into growing some of my own herbs and stuff, but I had a lot going on. So I'm just going to slice up my basil, and fresh basil is best to use in this recipe because it has the most flavor, and you want to save half to top your food later on. So to start our pasta sauce, I'm going to add some butter into our pan. Butter is important because it does a couple of things. So one, the butter is going to add a nice velvety texture to your tomato sauce, and it's going to cut down on the acidity of the tomatoes. So it's just going to be a nice smooth sauce. So the next tip is you should use San Marzano tomatoes, and those are just sweet plum tomatoes from Italy. I did not have those on hand, so I just used some regular canned tomatoes, and actually they were fire roasted.
No ma'am. No ma'am. No ma'am.
But listen, let's just pretend that these were San Marzano tomatoes because that is what you're going to need to use to get the best pasta sauce. And honestly, even though San Marzano is the best, this one still turned out alright even though I didn't use the right tomatoes. So I am adding in my salt, my pepper, some garlic powder, some Italian seasoning, parsley, and we're just going to mix that all around. And then the next tip, you guys, this is people have mixed feelings about this, but you want to add a little bit of sugar to it. Because we're making this from scratch, the tomatoes can have a little bit of acidity to them. So if you don't want like sour tasting sauce, you want to add a little bit of sugar, but make sure you do it to your own taste. So I'm just going to pour in some water, and we're going to let that boil on the lowest heat possible for a few hours. You want to let the flavors really develop and take their time to be amazing.
2,000 years later.
After a couple hours, she gets a little thick. She's been eating her rice and cabbage. You want to pour some of, if you have an immersion blender, this would be the time to use your immersion blender, but I sadly do not. So I just blend up half of my sauce because I like it a little bit chunky. So here is going to be your preference. You can choose not to blend it at all if you want it super chunky. Blend all of it if you want it super smooth. And I decided to do half and half because I like it in the middle. Now I put some in a jar just for show because I ended up using it in this recipe. But if you want to store it in the fridge for 4 days and in the freezer for up to 4 months. Let's get into our chicken. So what I'm doing is I'm just slicing my chicken breast in half, and this was a little hard for me just because the knife I was using is absolute trash. But as you can see, I just split the chicken breast in half like this so that you can get these little cutlets. You can buy them already, cut this way in the store. I'm just showing you like this terrible knife, but you can buy it pre-cut like this in the store and you'll be fine. So once you have your chicken cut into these cutlets, you just want to add salt and pepper to both sides of it. Make sure that it's pretty well seasoned. We're going to add more later. And before I show you what's in the breadcrumb mix, make sure you subscribe, turn on your notifications, like, and engage with this so that more people can see how to make this amazing food that I be putting out here. So I'm using half panko breadcrumbs, half Italian breadcrumbs, some Parmesan, some Italian seasoning, garlic powder. And at this point, I want you guys to go check in the description box because that is where I put all of the ingredients and the exact measurements. So make sure that y'all go check down there because I write a lot of stuff down there and sometimes I feel like it's for no reason. I hope you guys check it so whenever you need to make this recipe, you can come back to this video and all the measurements are going to be right there. So I sprayed my pan with a little bit of olive oil spray, and I am now just dipping my chicken cutlet into my egg mixture. And the reason why I'm dipping it into the egg is because the egg is a binder, and that just means that the egg is going to act like a glue. That is what is going to make the breadcrumbs stick to the outside of our chicken cutlet. And right here, I'm just using a fork to pat all of those ingredients and the breadcrumbs onto the chicken. But honestly, you could just use your hands. I was just being bougie. Every time I try to make one of these videos, I'm acting different. I'm trying to, use the little fork, use gloves. I'm the one that's going to be eating this, so I really could have just used my hands anyway. But just make sure that you pat it in. And what I did, as you can see, is I double dip. So after I dip it into the breadcrumbs once, I dip it back into the egg and into the breadcrumbs again. And that's just going to allow us to have a really crispy coating on the outside. And it should look just like this. Once you do that, you want to spray it with a little olive oil spray and pop it in the oven for about 25 minutes until your chicken is cooked. And it's going to get really crispy and sound a little like this. That's how you know you are winning. So we're going to use the homemade pasta sauce that we made, and we're going to put that right on top. And you're just going to spread it out over all of your pieces. And on top of that, you're going to add some mozzarella. Today I use shredded mozzarella, but I prefer fresh. That's just what I had at home, so that's what I used. But if you can, please use the fresh kind. It's going to make such a big difference. And once you have that, you're going to pop it back into the oven again for about 5-ish minutes. And remember, I told you to set some basil aside. You want to top your chicken parm with basil, and that fresh basil is just going to give it, take it over the edge. And I served this on top of some spaghetti. I added more of our homemade sauce on top of the spaghetti. And the second way that I ate this was the next day. I just used some of the leftover chicken parm and I put it in a sandwich. Put it on top of pasta, put it in between some bread, up to you. But I'm going to say bye for now and make sure you come back for another video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye y'all.